All right, good afternoon. Thank you for coming out to the poetry reading today. It's been a really fun semester. We've got some strong poets here. I wanted to start just a little bit. We take writing for granted sometimes, I think. A lot of us, since we speak every day, we think that writing a poem should be easy. But when you sit down and stare at that blank page, it actually becomes pretty difficult pretty quickly. So I wanted to start with a poem by Ruth Stone. She's a Vermont poet who died earlier this month at 96, and she published her last book just a year ago and won the Pulitzer Prize at 93. So she did this for a while. But this is her poem called What is a Poem? And it kind of addresses that difficulty of writing. Such slight changes in air pressure, tongue and palate, and the differences in teeth, transparent words. Why do I want to say ochre, or what is green-yellow? The sisters of those leaves on the ground still lisp on the branches. Why do I want to imitate them? Having come this far with a handful of alphabet, I am forced with these few blocks to invent the universe. So our first poet today is Chazzy Blanchard.
Okay, first poem I'm going to read is, it's an ode from God's point of view to war. It's called God's Verse to War. I peel back the firelit sky for just one glimpse of your face. You are a bomb bursting like an array of brightly colored sparks, showering Americans on Independence Day. You are a pyromaniac, burning existence into dense clouds of smoke and mounds of ash. You are a sniper, targeting villages and homes where children play. You are a cannibal, thirsty for the salty metallic taste of blood. You are a thief, stealing husbands and sons from wives and mothers. You relish in the cries of agony and grief as purple hearts are passed out like wildflowers. You are a camouflage coward, enslaving the ignorant to fight your battles and proudly calling it patriotism. My other poem is called Shangri-La. It's a place poem. I wrote it when I went to a festival. Hidden deep within the woods, behind long miles of Minnesota cornfields, the big oak shade trees provide cool air from the warm sun, a relaxing place to hang the hammocks and pitch the tents. Flower people walk the paths of the circle, which always led them home. Along the way, hugs, harmony, and laughter were shared, all carefree, bathing in the lake, or perhaps not bathing at all. All had filthy clothes, unbrushed hair, and still no glares from judgmental eyes. Smoke was shared between neighbors and friends as the moon rose and the night fell. The music drifted through the wind. The dirty feet people danced to the beating of the drums. As the smoke was blown out, the crowds howled with the wolves of the moon. 3,000 people consumed. Our differences brought us closer. Besides, God is too big for one religion. And my last poem was a letter poem from the show The Office. It's a letter poem to Michael Scott. Dear Michael Scott, your coffee mug says it all. You are the best co-manager Dunder Mifflin Paper Company has ever had. You always leave your customers satisfied and smiling. That's what she said. You are so heroic, like that time you hit Meredith with your car, and we found out she had rabies. You saved her life. Who cares if she broke her pelvis? We should totally go ice skating for the next office party. Maybe Kevin won't ruin it with his skin cancer again. And let's not invite Toby either. I hate so much about the things Toby chooses to be, too. If I had a gun and 3 bullets and I was locked in a room with Osama bin Laden, Hitler, and Toby, I'd shoot Toby 3 times. Michael, we have so much in common. After ice skating, we should all grill out. Watch your step. George Foreman can be a bitch. Don't let it get to you, Michael. Ryan started the fire. You merely cooked your foot. I'll hide the mayonnaise and black olives. P.S. I want to squeeze them. Sincerely, a fan of The Office.
Hey everyone, my name's Samantha Bloom. My first poem is an Ars Poetica, and it's basically just about the frustrations of trying to write poetry and not knowing how to get your thoughts on paper, and it's called Desperation. Chaotic ink flowing, a stream of black thoughts flooding from the soggy paper and seeping into the dry wooden table. Frantic scribbling, lead shattering like glass, cutting deep grooves into the canvas. Slashing out with my knife, carving viciously into the wooden desktop, burning to get this disarray of thoughts out of my head. I slit my fingertips and paint the walls with blood. This next poem is an ekphrastic poem, and it was taken from a black and white photo of an eye that had a skull photoshopped into it. It's called In Fear You Will Be Consumed. That eye, glossed with guilt, fails to see the world anymore. The cornea is swirling on the inside with madness. A bold, menacing vein scratches its way across the sclera, threatening to thrust itself into the iris. Gashes of wrinkles scar the surroundings of that eye. Death lurks in its abyssal pupil, eternally haunting the murderer with an ominous grin. And no matter his attempts to forget or to hide his horrific act, that eye will reveal all in its crystal ball cornea of shame. My last poem is an ode, and it is an ode to death. Stalking us from conception, we are not for a moment safe from the bite of your frigid breath or the frisk of your stale bone fingers. Lurk around every blind corner, scheming when to make your move. You freeze tears into worthless crystals. You seize laughter from our throats. Death, you stab fear into our hearts as you smother our lives, like dry ice dumped on top a meager spark, and extract from us our soul. But death, no sooner do you take our lives than you lead us to the divine light of an eternity, and we wave goodbye to your grimacing smile as we approach the gates of everlasting life.
Hello, my name is Evita. The first poem I'm going to be reading is a poem I wrote on an art piece by one of my mentors, and it's called Intimidated, Your First Instinct Will Be to Touch It. It is perceived as an egg, but it also mimics the torso. Bulk of the work, growing inside, marred with striking jagged lines, stands gathered, bound together. Seems crude, leaving large gaps between, sense the stress and the tension of posture, enforced by strenuous hanging. The evolution weathers incredibly, rough exterior, pounded and marred in the process, matched by emotional burden. Found, holding everything together, Tiffany's hair weaves in the truth of this mystery. At 11, you were inspiring, a sculptor and a sculpture, an assemblage human and free. Thanks. The next one is about a relationship and the changing of the season. It's called The Nature Of. This time last year, the path was inviting. I can't remember if I explored it without you. I can't remember life without you. So when I look upon this trail, now I ache for what was, the overgrown, untamed, dank bounty of earth, the path snaked through, and I led the way like the sun beaming through the branches. I glanced in search of you. You were mostly in shadow. You liked to trail behind, lingering in the past, admiring your dreams. So when I rounded another bend, I would stop and wait with an eager smile to guide you. I noted the benches for two, and we stood in contemplation of the act of being together. Knowing it would end, we continued to walk. I could ramble on about the memories made, how much I miss every little thing, your face, your meandering, my faith, the butterflies, our hands holding on to the idea of you and I. But what was once full and thriving is now barren, except for the trees and the benches, and the cemetery at the top of the hill that was unknown to us, but was always there, buried under death and loneliness and life moving on. This is all that is left of the trail, marred by men just like me, as riddled with ghosts, as riddled with graves as I am with ghosts. Thank you. And my last poem is a found poem, which I had never heard of until this class, and it's probably one of my favorites because now I tend to do that anyway when I'm scanning words. I like to highlight words, so now I know I can make poetry out of that. And it's about an article about St. Mary's High School and renovating that was being done. There was being taken over by a new principal or superintendent. And so this is a poem in reference to the position of a woman in I guess, business or taking a high position, and also in relation with women in general. It's called She is a God of Men. St. Mary hasn't wasted any time to dissolve tradition. One primary reason for making the change was personal interest. Being tested in biology, she wasted no time getting her feet wet. Her master's specialist, a scientist, settled comfortably. No intention of leaving her position. Her husband asked if she would mind putting her money where her mouth is. Her oldest son said her experience as a teacher taught the importance of listening. When she took her post, the responsibility took up each different skill set. In her leadership, she knows there will be disagreements, qualms. She is ready to move forward, a new aftermath. Thank you.
All right, my name is Donna, and my first poem is it was a place poem about a powwow, and it's called A Powwow at the Fairgrounds. Yesterday, it was an empty grass field. Today, cars fill the parking lot. The steady sound of drums moves the body like a heartbeat, carried on the breeze through the midday heat. Tents and teepees like a nomadic village huddled in groups. Outhouses lining the walkway to vendors that circle the fairgrounds like vultures. Artificial arrowheads, painted feather fans, pink plastic peace pipes, jewelry, medicine bags, moccasins, all a slew of synthetic supplies. The aroma of fry bread covered in powdered sugar are folded into a taco envelops the field. The closer I get to the center, the more thunderous the drum beats become. There's the earthy smell of sage burning beyond the circle of the bleachers, and the dancers move in perfect time with the beating of the buffalo hide tight over the drum, their faces painted to resemble eagles or bear. Feathers and bells adorn their bodies, their regalia with the colors of the races, red, yellow, white, and black. The dancers raise their arms and fly, bodies possessed by the beat, unmindful of the eyes upon them, unaware that they are the show. The only sound they hear is the song sung by the souls of the beating of the drum. The drummers and dancers are one. The next poem I wrote is an ode, and it's an old ode to the feather, because feathers are just really amazing things. To the feather. Alone, you are just a feather, chained to earth by gravity. You are easily torn apart, fragile, tossed around on winds of change, but with your brothers and sisters on the wings of an owl, you are all diverse, yet identical, a rainbow like humanity, a race of your own. Red, brown, black, white, what places have you been? Together you reach fantastic heights. soaring through smoky skies, free. And the next poem is, it's kind of a letter to my son, and this poem probably is like my favorite one I've written this semester ever. It was just kind of really honest and raw. So, my son, I didn't want you, but still you came. You were my worst fear. The pain held and crushed me like a boa. Then you were here, and I was lost. How fragile and helpless we both were, growing together. You into a child, me into a mother. 10 years passed, a lifetime it seems. Before you arrived, nights were spent with a bottle and line, in a dark basement with friends, with fake friends in our fake lives. Now our nights are quiet. We dance through the house, sing in the dark, and snuggle up tight. My soul no longer roams, now that I see you saved my life.
My name is Brooke. My first poem is an ekphrastic poem from the painting Cape Cod Morning by Edward Hopper. It's called War Has Come and Gone. Though the trees are green and full, and the soft blue sky lingers over the white paned house, she can't help but feel the sting of loneliness. She spends hours in solitary staring out her picture window, envisioning her lover running through the amber field toward her, dressed head to toe in uniform without any sign of war on his pure white skin. But war is come and gone, and still she waits, left with only memories and a metal-studded uniform with their last name stitched to the breast, lying on the bed where they once made love. My second poem is called Tater Day. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Tater Day in Benton. I've grown up in Benton, and I have grown to despise this day. So here it is. Before delinquent teens reeking of cheap beer, there were calloused-hand farmers striving to make a living. Before corn dogs and deep-fried Twinkies, there were potatoes fresh from the earth. Before rickety rides and overrated parades, there were chickens and donkeys up for trade. Before souped-up cars bumping to the latest hip-hop, there were wooden buggies pulled by exhausted horses. Before rebel flags flying from the trucks of unintelligent rednecks, there were knowledge of the history of the rebel flag. And my last poem is called Stress Reliever. It's an Ars Poetica, a poem, and it's about how sometimes if we can get our feelings down on paper, we can feel better. All these thoughts roaming around in my head, all these feelings that were left unsaid. Anger lingers in me most of the time. Depression seems to control my mind. So I get out a blank piece of paper and a pen. I close my eyes and the flow of words begin. I write down my troubles and my fears. I write down my memories and the reason for my tears. I read over the scribbled words I had written on the page, and finally some feelings are released from their cage. I close my notebook and put it away, and for a moment I feel as if everything will be okay.
All right. How's it going? My name's Chris Odell. I got some poems for you. All right. First one's called Elementary. The smell of freshly clipped grass runs with the gentle blowing breeze, lightly cooling the warm air rays from the glowing sun, while tanning the skin of the children swinging, running, playing, laughing, as the break from a They're running, playing, and laughing as a break from another full day of learning and racking the brain over books of writing and reading begins to slowly fade, their minds still spring with new ideas, turning slides into giant mountain slopes, rocks into burning coals forbidden to cross, fences into castle walls blocking harsh truths from the outside world, all until it's abruptly ended by the sirens of learning. All right. My second one, I'm not sure what kind of poem it is. It's just called The Tree. I know that. Waiting outside your window, watching every little movement in your room. Light flickers from the TV as images flash on the screen. Those little felines diving through the trash can, scavenging for food. I hope you leave the blinds open to show me all that you don't want anyone or anything to see. You kneel as you pray to whatever or whoever it is you believe. I see you most vulnerable at night when you're asleep, and I have remembered the smallest motions you make while you eat. A knife held in your right hand, a fork in your left. You must be right-handed. That's the way you cut it best. I'm still as I stare until the breeze moves me, and you're still unaware that your life is my movie. My limbs extend to reach. I'm noticed, but we don't meet. I was here before you never knew this street. My feet are planted in the ground, and I've longed for this to come. The day when I'm pleased, I think I finally found the one to show me what I could never enjoy. You leave me so in awe, it's no wonder I can't speak, as if I'm rooted beneath the soil. I try to branch out, but it's impossible to leave. So I look forward to watching you along with the other trees. My third poem is called Back Roads. On the roads that nobody knows, you'll find a sense of peace, where the animals are wild in their home of fields and trees. The same trees where the top green leaves always find a way to meet the endless blue sky, creating a horizon so astonishing you almost forget where you are. Where the thin, crisp air, hardly yet polluted, brings memories of a simpler time you never knew. And the smell of the fields and flowers guides you to the forest that absorbs it all. The residents of the free, covered by dust from a black tar, welcoming the outsiders of the world to the homes of the wild without knocking.
My name is Emily, and the first poem that I'm going to be reading is called Lady Business, and it's for all the ladies out there. Guys, you can try to figure out what it's about. It's funny, in class, actually, whenever we workshopped it, Chris, he read it and he gave me comments and everything on it, but he was like, I had no idea what it was about until you told me, but maybe you can figure it out. It's called Lady Business. You would think I'd have been prepared in that house with 5 other women for the sanguine stain I found in that slate gray 6th grade stall. You might think they would have told me of the smell of oxidized iron and fresh turned earth, or the wrenching pain involved in shedding old to make room for new. I would have liked to know that I would crave bloody beef, chocolate cake, and smoked sausages. I wish they had told me so that I might understand and not be ashamed, but learn to seek the moon and align myself with her ways. The next poem I have is just a love poem. It was written about my husband, and I found it really difficult to write this poem because I am not a smushy person. I am not, I don't know, I'm not mushy. So I wrote it how it happened, and it's called February. When I arrived in a borrowed car, he stood on the stoop of his father's house wearing a threadbare sweater, observing the murky snow with desert yellow eyes. I took him to my house, which I shared with another man, and asked him if he wanted to get naked or maybe have some coffee. We gathered his box of rocks and feathers and a plastic bag of clothes and moved him into my bedroom, where we weathered together the worst winter in years. We burrowed under blankets as we made plans to split the earth and plant seeds of change or tomatoes. This last one is an Ars Poetica. But it really kind of ended up being another love poem. I don't know, I guess I got into a rut there for a minute, but I think it turned out all right. It's called I Want to Write You a Poem. I want to write you a poem, but I don't know how to express the feel of your flesh against mine with something as piddling as words or rhyme. I could say that I want to be sweet clover to your goat, gazelle to your cheetah, or kelp to your otter, and hope you understand that it doesn't matter which is predator or which is prey, for one would be nothing without the other.
My name is Nathaniel and the first poem I'm writing is entitled Ode to Intelligent People. This poem came about to me because I was just looking around and just seeing how pathetic some people actually have become nowadays. And so this is Ode to Intelligent People. Oh, you higher beings of intellect and wealth, prove once again that we, mere mortals, are nothing but the dust beneath your gold-plated fitness shoe. Your intelligence reeks from every pore, so witty to drive to your mailbox, then to walk a few feet to order a Big Mac, double quarter pounder with cheese, large fry, and a Diet Coke. Intelligent people you are, and you make sure everyone knows. Your opinions are facts, your lies are truth. Anyone who disagrees is just inferior. I say thank you for designing the atomic bomb. No longer do I have to decide who is friend or foe. With the push of a button, I can level the playing field. You have decided for me that I do not need those trees. Instead, I need a bank, or a mall, or a church. Now do me a favor. Do the world a favor, and do yourself a favor. Let your intelligence devour you from the inside of your imprisoned mind. This next poem I wrote, it's another ode. It's entitled Persistence of Time, and it's just basically about time and clocks. You, demon of the holy time, running forever or until the batteries run out, letting us know we only have 5 minutes to turn in the report, pay the speeding ticket, get to the showtime. You are gold, the keeper of the unseen. You are the unforgiving human-made God, the malevolent creature laughing at us as we worship you blindly. But we do not need you. You are just the messenger. We bestowed upon you your powers, so we should be able to strip them away. Just a flick of a switch, a pull of a plug. In paradise we are, but only for a moment. Those reports are still due, and our children still need to catch the bus. Now, my last poem is actually a love poem, but I didn't really want to be cliche, so I tried to add in a little bit of morbidness to it, I guess you would say. But when you actually think about it, it's about as deep and tight as love can actually be. It is entitled Mutilated Matrimony. And as the sudden bright light sears our flesh as one, and the late deafening boom distorts what thought we have, I come to a realization. Even though we are suffering for a moment, our skin boiling under the heat, heads caving in as if trapped in a black hole, I cannot help but thank the bomb, for that nuclear reaction has brought me even closer to you. My skin is your skin, my bones are your bones. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for coming out. Hang out and talk with our poets if you'd like to. And if you enjoyed what you heard, sign up for English 207. It will be fiction in the spring, and in the fall, it will be poetry again. So hope to see you in class. There will also be a fiction class online this summer.